I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Okay, happy Saturday. A follow-up to the blog I did a few Saturdays ago. On my Saturday blog, I like to do more on investing for retirement, just, philosophies towards life, how I kind of manage my life and my downtime and my work time and my working out and all that stuff. So I'll probably ramble on a little bit here. I got a lot of feedback from my last Saturday blog. I'm going to try and do more this summer as well. But some viewer mailbag stuff. He says, Owen, love your blog. I'd love to hear your views on retirement philosophy and timing. Often I've seen people who work all their lives saving for this dream retirement and then drop dead in their late 50s. This guy is a doctor. He's got a surgeon friend of his that recently, worked his ass off and then dropped dead in his mid 50s. He was in good health, ate well and everything else, so you never know. He thought, that, people probably work too hard. How do you balance all this work with investing and everything else? He thinks the 4% rule is overrated. Too many people think you need to save millions before they can retire, etc. So, I talk about this. If you guys, this guy might not have read my book. I'm going to plug my book more and more here on Saturday. Along for the Ride, available on Amazon now for, I think, $14. Kindle, I think you can get this for $9.99. This was a door opener for me. I don't know how many thousands of copies I've sold. I've got, 5-star reviews with the book. I know people might comment here that have bought the book and have enjoyed it, and it's really changed their life. So in chapter 7 here, I have my life lessons. Coming up to 60 years here, I wrote this when I was in my early 50s. I've learned quite a bit over the years. I've made some mistakes, but it was kind of my life lessons talking about work and play balance, downtime, taking a lot of vacations and breaks. So yeah, I'm a huge believer in that. I too have had very successful friends, people that I've known, that have gotten into their 50s. A few have died unexpectedly, and then some just have major health problems. So they've got all this money sitting in investment accounts, but they can't really do much with it now because they've lost their health. So a few things. That's why, if you've read my book, I've told you guys that I'm a big believer in kind of work hard, play hard, and balance your life. And I have been like this probably for about 25 years. I'm a huge believer, of course, the missing key for a lot of people is their fitness, sleep, nutrition aspect. And luckily I caught this bug when I was a teenager, when I was competing in bodybuilding and then transitioned into fitness modeling. Did covers for all the major fitness magazines. So it's been part of my life forever, since I was 15, 16 years old. First started lifting weights in my parents' basement and then got into nutrition, and it's never left me. Thank God. It's one of the greatest things that I ever picked up, was getting that staying in shape. Back when I started, when I was a teenager in the 80s, people looked at weight training like it was weird. Now, of course, resistance training is is in vogue now. People realize that you don't want to have to become a bodybuilder, but keeping some muscle, some resistance training is incredible anti-aging strategy. So that's the thing that I talk about a lot in my book: staying in shape, eating right, getting enough sleep, nutrition. I'm a big believer, I've talked many times before, in taking regular and consistent breaks. So I've been lucky enough to enjoy my life, I think. I have nothing to regret looking back on. I never wanted to be one of those guys that at 75 years old, their health is failing, and say, I wish I would have taken that trip around the world, or I wish I would have taken that trip to Ibiza, or visited Berlin, or taken that trip to Tahiti or Hawaii, or gone surfing. That's not me. I've taken in all that and then some. Since I was in my early 20s, I probably lost out on a little bit of business along the way, but it was well worth it, because I tell younger realtors now, my days in Ibiza, because I'm big into electronic music, house music, techno music, in the late 90s and early 2000s, I was making regular trips to Ibiza to see various DJs and whatnot. And it was an incredible time, even though I was on a bit of a budget back then. But it's a different experience when you're in your 20s and 30s. Now, I still really enjoy my travel now as I'm in my late 50s. but it's a different experience. I stay in good shape, but I don't quite have the energy or the stamina I had when I was in my 20s. It's a different experience. The one thing is I stay in way better hotels now. Now I stay in 4 or 5-star hotels as opposed to dumpy 2-star hotels. So that makes it a little better, but the experience is still great, but it's different. So I'm a huge believer. You guys know I told you I take 3-4 trips every single year. Sometimes it might just be for 4 or 5 day getaway down to Los Angeles, and then other times I'll take a 2 or even a 3-week break in the summer or at Christmas time. Big believer in rewarding yourself with these mini vacations. But the other thing is, a lot of people, why I call this book Along for the Ride. The reason it's called Along for the Ride, if you've read it and you'll know, is it's about buying assets, real estate, and renting it out, or buying stocks like a Johnson & Johnson or an Apple or a Visa or a Costco or a Nike or TD Bank, Royal Bank, whatever. You buy these assets and then they pay you to hold them in the form of rent checks from your tenant and in the form of quarterly dividend checks. And this is why I call it Along for the Ride. You buy it and then just sit back and enjoy those cash flows that come in completely passive. You have to have that in life, guys. The sooner you get this passive income machine rolling, like I call it in my book, the easier your life is going to be. And that's when you get into your 30s and 40s, you can take a couple of weeks off and go to Hawaii, or take a weekend and go to Vegas or down to New York for 3 or 4 days, because you've got those passive income streams rolling in, rain or shine. And you don't notice a lot of it in your first 10 or 15 years as an investor. It wasn't until I got into my late 30s that I really started to see the power of compounding. These dividend checks coming in. Once you get a big enough portfolio, you'll have dividend deposits coming in on a weekly basis, because they all pay quarterly but at different times. I also own, a large amount of money in the ETF XEI, which is the Canadian high dividend. That pays its dividend monthly at the end of every month. So this will make your life so much easier, is, working, getting into a career, moving up the pay scale, getting very good at what you do, specialize, and then put away 10, 15, 20% of every paycheck and put it into assets like real estate and stocks that will not only appreciate capital gains wise over time, but will pay you to hold them. And if you're still in your working years, like I am still, I take those dividends and I'm not spending them. I'm taking those quarterly dividends and buying more shares. It could be of that stock that's paying me the dividend, but it could be something completely different. So you're compounding on top of compounding. And as Warren Buffett says, he calls it the snowball. Start small, but after about 10 or 15 years, it starts to get big. And after 25 or 30 years, like I've been investing, it will blow you away, the amount of dividend income you've got coming in. And then, of course, on my real estate portfolio, in the early years, you're not seeing much of that, because you've got interest on your mortgage, you've got property taxes, you've got maintenance fees, you've got repairs, you've got insurance, and all that other good stuff. Most of my early real estate purchases, I was supplementing a little bit on top of what my tenant gave me. But just like the snowball, that slowly dissipates. Less as you move along, more money goes to principal, less to interest. You start building up some capital gain in there. The property appreciates over time, not every year. Eventually you get it where you're clear title on the property, and a good percentage of that rent you're collecting goes straight into your pocket. But it takes time. There's no quick fix for any of this stuff. Unfortunately, I read in my Wall Street Journal all these horror stories, and in Fortune and Forbes and Barron's. Young people these days want to get rich quick. It never ends. There's always another sucker out there that, they're buying stocks and shares in meme stocks and buying on leverage and all this other stuff. It's a recipe for disaster. Just do it the surefire, guaranteed way that I did it in my book, and you'll see. It will work perfectly. Just like I know a lot of people comment they bought my book or they've been following my guidelines about just index investing. Buy your principal residence first. I mean, that should always still be step number one, guys. I know I've talked about down the road, the socialist governments that we're under now, they're going to want a piece of that home equity in your principal residence. It's coming. We're broke. But keep in mind, you're going to still keep 99 or 98% of that principal resident exemption, and it is by far the only true tax shelter. It's the best thing we get as Canadians, and they don't give us anything up here. Sure, they give us $7,000 into our TFSA, and I can put $30,000 a year into my RRSP, cap that out every year. But, you know, your principal residence has minted more multimillionaires in this country than all other sources combined. And it will continue that way, even if they do trim off 1% off the top down the road sometime. So get your principal residence first, max out your TFSA and RRSP via low-cost ETFs, and then perhaps maybe buy an investment property, put a tenant in it, use the leverage, you can deduct all the interest, and then keep the damn thing. No shortcuts here, guys. Buy my book. This roadmap, this is how I did it. This is all practical stuff, and I learned from the best. People like my dad, who've been in real estate for over 40 years. Developers I know in the city here. Several friends I've told you, private equity guys in New York and in London. They all will tell you the same thing. You know, some of these guys make their money managing money for people, and in some cases that's great. These guys are high-level guys. But for the typical guy like you and me, you should do it yourself. Why pay 1% to a money manager? Why buy a managed mutual fund where you're paying 1 or 1.5%? You know, if you do the 100 hours like I often recommend, you can do it yourself. Doesn't cost you anything or very little, 8 to 10 basis points. And you will maximize your returns by just simple index investing. Final thing, I'll just say quick. It's Saturday here. I've been on this for quite a while. If you read my book in that first two chapters, I talk about your attitude, the mindset you're going to have. And again, in this day and age, it's really, I've got to really try and pound this home to especially my young viewers, because there's just so much negativity out there right now. I opened my YouTube channel here and along the side, and oh God, the stuff on there on Vancouver real estate and the economy and the stock market, everything's going to crash. We're all going to die. Guys, remember, very tough to get any transparency with these people that you're watching on YouTube. Sometimes you can get a little bit. But for the most part, from what I can see, they have little to no background or knowledge in what they're talking about, whether that's Vancouver real estate or stock investing or anything else. Very little. And they don't look very old to me, a lot of these guys, so they can't have much skin in the game or have been in the game very long. Not like I have. I'm an old guy. So be very careful. You see, they're all trying to be, it's not about giving good advice, like what I've doled out here on my blog and what I've given to you in my book, because this isn't about me making money on YouTube or selling books and making money. That's not what it's about for me whatsoever. It's about giving good advice and giving you guys the advice that I learned from some of my mentors and what's worked for me like a charm over the last 30 years and made me a multimillionaire. Those are the people you want to get your advice from. They have transparency. I had a guy in my YouTube channel here, when I did that blog a while ago talking about buying on the dips and, you know, the market turmoil and everything else, and he asked me, did I buy in April? And I said, yeah, I sure did. As a matter of fact, like I always do, I put my money where my mouth is. It's very easy for someone to say, oh yeah, I bought on that dip. I bought during the COVID correction. Sure you did. So I asked them to go onto my Twitter feed. I'm not very active on Twitter. Every now and again, I'll go on a little Twitter storm when I think I've got something to say, which isn't all that often. I'm not on there very much. But I told them, go back into early April. I did about 7 or 8 tweets saying that, geez, guys, this market is oversold. This is dumb. These tariff things, this is a transient event. This isn't like stock. It's one thing when Johnson & Johnson announces a shortfall in earnings or an unexpected expense, or the CEO was leaving, or legal troubles. This was a tariff threat that what I said in my Twitter feed, for the most part, I've seen these kind of things come and go, and they usually end up getting worked out. And I went one step better. Over the next week, I tweeted out all the stuff that I was buying. Pretty much all ETFs, VUG, VIG. I was buying the lots in the Triple Q, little bit in Canada. So it's all there. It's all right there. So just, for argument's sake, I'm buying the S&P 500, the VU. I'm up a cool 25% since April on those prices. I wasn't expecting that. I knew it would bounce. I knew that the prices I was getting there, that sell-off was overdone like it always is. But that's what you do. You buy when things are on sale and then just hang on to them. And I buy a little less when the markets are at all-time highs like it is now. But even there's always stuff worth putting a little bit of money into. Get my money working for me, because it's just sitting idle if it's not, and start collecting those quarterly dividends. But you got to be careful, guys, what's out there right now. It's getting worse and worse and worse. You got to realize these guys aren't giving you any actual advice or any good advice, because they can't. They can't. It's some 27-year-old guy that owns no real estate, owns no stock. But that's not the game they're playing, guys. The game is to get hits, to get views, to get clicks. That's where they're making their money. And to do that, there's all these companies. I get spammed 30, 40 emails a day. I get phone calls from these marketing companies that want to take over my YouTube channel. You've got good potential, Mr. Bigland, but we can take you to 100,000 members, and we can start generating $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month for you in ad revenue. How much do you make now? We can triple it. And inevitably what they want to do is they want to start doing the thumbnails, they want to start doing the titles on my videos, and they want me to start leaning towards doom and gloom stuff. I don't return any of their calls or any of their emails, but I know, because in the early days, that's what they were telling me, and I told them to go pound sand. I'm not interested in becoming a YouTube star. I don't care about the revenue I make off my YouTube channel. But most of the stuff you guys see on here, on Vancouver real estate, on investing, 90% what I see is doom and gloom stuff, markets crashing, investors are fleeing, the sky is falling. It's fake. It's not the case. Markets are holding up pretty well right now. I'm an investor. I've got hundreds of investor clients. We're all doing very well. None of us are losing tenants because we own quality stuff. If you own some garbage hugging up on a bridge catering to students as your tenants, well, yeah, you're probably getting hurt right now, but that's on you. You never should have bought that type of product to begin with. So there's a sucker born every minute for that kind of stuff. So be careful out there, guys. You got to get out of that doom loop that I've talked about before too. I watch pretty much zero mainstream media. I've told you guys, I look at Twitter for maybe 30 minutes a week, max total. A couple minutes here, a couple minutes there if I'm in line getting a coffee or something. I subscribe to the Wall Street Journal. That's where I get most of my news. And I subscribe to a number of good investor newsletters that I get every morning. And I'll skim through those for 10 or 15 minutes when I'm reading my coffee. The rest of the time is I got my blinders on. I don't listen to talk radio. All of it's negative. I stay in shape, concentrate on what I have control over. You guys should do the same. Don't get into these doom loops. Surround yourself with other positive people that are trying to get ahead and make things happen. That's what I do. I don't have time for negative people, people that are complaining. You shouldn't either. Be careful out there. It's an incredible time right now, an opportunity to be rising above your competition right now. As a matter of fact, it gets easier and easier with all this doom stuff because your competition is caught up in a lot of this stuff. If you can separate yourself from that, work hard, keep your blinders on, get better every year at your career or move up the pay scale, get your money working for you passively through real estate and good quality, low-cost ETFs, you can get the kind of lifestyle I have when you get into your late 40s or 50s. I've told you guys, I could have retired in my late 40s comfortably. That's where my crossover point hit around 47. Where the income I was getting passively every year, which kept going up, of course, indexed to inflation and then some, I could have more than retired as a realtor, shut down my team, and lived comfortably. Still traveled in business class, drive a nice car, and all that other stuff. So you guys can get there too. The sooner you start, the easier it is. My book gives you that roadmap. It's all practical stuff that I've done. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks to all my new subscribers. Have a good weekend. See you guys next week.